Here's a couple of little hints with Skids, Revenge of the Fallen. Let's see, where should I start? Well, first of all, some people have trouble getting him to stand because he's got somewhat of a backpack. Well, one of the things I do is to put his door, kind of angle it down and give him an extra heel. And that actually adds quite a bit of stability. You can still have it pegged and do that. Sometimes it's easier to unpeg and just put it slightly behind, and that'll give him even more stability. You can actually, pose him kind of looking up, and why is that way now? A lot more stable, and his doors are there anyway, so might as well use them, right? So that's one easy hint, number one. Number two, I guess this is how he goes in his mode in the instructions. Anyways, if you're there's that gimmick. What you can also do to make his chest look a little cooler is flip these up. They're already spring-loaded, so you don't have to worry about breaking them too much. Just pivot them because they're on a screw that's right under there. See that screw? If it's too tight, then you could loosen the screw a little bit. I didn't even have to. I just oh, look at that, it turns. And you kind of tuck them into there, and you can either keep this forward. I like to bend it back a little bit. Now, it looks like it's got more panels that shift on his chest, which I think is kind of cool. The gimmick still works on the front, and it moves those a little bit, not as drastically, but I kind of like the way it look better that way, posing-wise. So those are the easy ones. This is my piece de resistance that I finally was able to get around to. Now, he's supposed to have his backpack hooked in right there, and I actually did one thing there to make it so his head was further back, but that one's pretty much moot point now, because what I did was I made his trunk hinge so it folds in. Now it doesn't need to peg into the back, it just folds, and it doesn't hit him in the back of the head, and you can make it sit down lower. You don't have to have, it's supposed to, the gray part is supposed to peg in right there in the hole. It doesn't have to sit there. It's actually relatively stable enough on its own, at least mine is, so you don't need to have it pegged there. But when you've got it so it's folded back there, it doesn't hit him in the back of the head, it looks a lot smoother. He's, actually got a neck now, not so much of that Igor feel, which goes along with his face, so it certainly fits if you like that kind of thing. But anyway, it was bugging me for the longest time. So let me show you the hinge that I made in there. I might as well explain it to you. In case you guys don't want to do the hinge thing, this is something else that will give you some extra play, because usually this plugs in right there, and it pushes Skid's head forward, as you can see. So what I did, this is one of the first things that I had done before, and it still wasn't enough for me, but this is much easier. I took, see this part of the plastic right here that clips in to his back, you can see where I cut it away. And I did the same thing. You just kind of gradually, it's either saw or, just slice it. Eventually it'll come through, but you cut down this direction and cut down this direction. It's about halfway is what I did, maybe a little less than halfway. Now you can't Dremel it because you need that piece of plastic that you cut off. And see, I glued it into that slot in the front. So basically, and when you're doing this, make sure you cut off the inside part of the plastic. You see how this is the bottom side of the trunk, I guess, and this is the top side. Cut off the top side of the trunk, because you want this to clip in further back. You see that? So instead of clipping in right there, where it would have, you're moving it back, and it's clipping in right there. So you're basically pushing back where it clips in. And that's a good fix, as you can see. It makes a difference on where his head plugs in. Plugs in there, plugs in there. See, it pushes his head forward, and it just makes him look down, and, it annoyed the bejesus out of me. So, that was a good fix to begin with. I did decide to do the hinge thing. It took a long time, and it was an idea that somebody else on the boards did. They put a ball socket joint in there. I don't have a ball socket, so what I did is I put a hinge. You see that hinge? And this hinge, let me show you where I got this from. I went to the dollar store, and this pretty little angel violin playing dealy. Anyway, I got it from a Dollar Tree because I wanted the hinge. This whole gold circle thing, see, it came like this, and it clips, opens up, very much like this. This is one that I had at home that I didn't realize so after I went to the Dollar Tree. But anyway, see, there's the hinge right there. It's a nice metal hinge, very sturdy, doesn't bend, no play in it. It's nice and tight, and it's pretty sturdy too. Anyway, so that's what this came from, and I obviously cut pieces of it off, and it's got that semicircle thing going on to it, which worked out really well on attaching to there, and of course one big screw in the middle. It was like a PC screw. It's almost a little too big. I filed it down some. And then one down here, and then it fits underneath of the clear plastic there for the tail light once it's grooved out. Alright, so this is what you have to do. Not only do you take these screws out, because once you do, it's still attached on the top part, so you have to take these out here as well. Basically, so once you take those screws off, those three there, and this comes off. We'll put him aside. I think also the screws are the same anyway. And then you take out these two screws there, and this whole part comes off. See, the whole window and tail lights there is one piece. Be careful when handling this, you don't want to break that. So what I did is this hinge, I colored it with permanent black marker just to get rid of the gold sheen that's in there. It's not like it's very visible, but still. And I'd probably paint it black, works better than permanent marker. This is just a quick thing. So, as you can see, it goes just, the hinge part goes right underneath that, and I grooved it out a little bit. You don't want to groove it all the way, because you want the pressure from the plastic to hold it down in place. Once you do, get in there. See, then it'll just hold just on the tips of it, but essentially that's what you want. You want something to hold it on the far ends and then in the middle ends. So I did that, and these are a bunch of little tiny eyeglass screws and things that I had laying around. You can get regular eyeglass screws. This is like a computer screw. This one worked really well because there is a hole on the green plastic. It's like a little, like a hole for a peg to go into. There's no pegs on skids that go into it. I don't know why it exists. Maybe it was a original design thing. It doesn't do anything now. So, but it's perfect size for one of those screws to go in. So I had to drill holes, obviously, in the hinge, and make sure that you got your hinge lined up right with the plastic there. I did all this stuff before I cut this apart, and I strongly recommend that because then you got to hold everything together when you're lining it up and drilling the holes and stuff. So I recommend getting the hinge ready first before trimming this. And also, because if you get fed up with the hinge and you decide not to do it, then you don't have to glue these back together. They'll still be one piece. So this I recommend doing last. So anyway, I drilled a tiny little hole in the plastic there, put the eyeglass screw there. This one already had the hole, so I just had to drill a hole in the hinge and put that in. And then I did tiny little holes into the plastic a little bit. It's slightly thickest right there. It's really thin plastic across, so you got to be careful where you go. But this part here, there's a little bit thicker. So that's kind of why this hinge worked out really well, because it reached out to the end and gave me a place to screw in there. And that's pretty much it for attaching it. Like I say, it fits pretty exactly. For taking this apart, this is very careful, obviously. Take a sharp knife. Sharp works better than dull. And just take the tip, and you just run over it slowly, over and over again. It takes a long time, but it's better than trying to, sit here and saw your way through and things like that. It'll give you a nice smooth thing. It's already got a groove, so that's a huge help. It's got your guideline. You just sit here and you just, put your pressure gently and just slowly take out little bits of little things of the plastic. Also do the same thing on the ends. I sawed a little bit on the ends there, like this, to get into it once I was at that point. And then once it's opened up, once you've got them in two separate pieces, you can shave it and make it clean. But because of that seam's already there, it blends in nicely once it's, when he's in car mode. But my hinge is relatively sturdy. It hasn't come apart yet, which is really good. I'm happy about that. I'm pleased. So let's put him back together, and I'll show you car mode. And as you can see, there's his trunk. Got a little bit of a line there seen, but hey, that's where his trunk's supposed to lift anyway, right? I mean, that's what it would be in real life. It's not like he doesn't have other seams on his vehicle mode. But, there you go. It actually fits nicely, and when you do it right and you got a nice hinge, then it'll give you a little play here, but that's actually a good thing. You don't want it to snap when you're transforming them. So, there you go.